All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome to a stream. It's been a while since we've done one of these, and I think we've had Candace before, have we not?
Yep,
Yes. So
I did a talk about LinkedIn.
that should be long ago because you claimed ignorance about StreamYard, which is what we're using to kind of stream this. But yeah, all right. So I just want to address the massive elephant in the room, which is like this green elephant back here, because everyone's asking me about it. And yes, my Christmas tree is up in October already. Yes, it is because I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they kind of harass me every single day since March when I'm going to put up the Christmas tree. So eventually you just give in and just like, okay, fine. October is reasonable. So, and also it takes a very long time to put up for anyone who's assembled one of these before. So there's no way
What?
I'm putting it up and it only staying up for like 2 weeks. So this like prepare yourself for all streams up until like end of Feb. Like this bad boy here is going to be in the background there.
What about pumpkin carving? Are you not into that? Is that not the season for you?
I can only handle so many seasons. Uh, but yeah, cool. All right,
Fair.
let's get into it. So cool. Thanks everyone for joining. Like we seem to have quite a crowd, so no pressure, Candace. But Candace was throwing around some numbers about satisfaction ratings and stuff. So uh, she just said like when she did this talk last time, it was pretty the actual feedback that was gathered by, I guess it was DevConf, right?
No, actually, this one was actually a talk done for a private community.
Oh, okay.
Yes, internal community. Someone asked me
Ooh,
to do.
okay. And well, and apparently she got some really good feedback. So no pressure.
It was an
Um,
awesomeness score. We'll just call it that. That was fine.
awesome the
We're
score.
good.
Okay. All right. So let's get into it. So first and foremost, like if this is the first time joining one of these, so this is part of front end develop, no, front end engineering and design South Africa. So we kind of do these every month. We sometimes do more than one. Kind of just everything from design, UI, whatever, and just like kind of also a lot of like general stuff around kind of being a dev or a designer in 2025 specifically given. And I think this is where Candace's talk is going to be very topical. And I guess also why we already have so many people joining is because industry is rough. Industry is rough at the moment. And so I do think any advice in terms of networking, kind of reaching out to people, just being open for opportunities and kind of just putting yourself out there, I think is very welcome like advice at this point. So we tend to have like these type of things as well. And as mentioned, the last 2 years, just because of the state of the tech industry, they tend to actually do really well. So yeah, I hope what Candace is going to be able to share with you guys tonight, um, like will be of value. I'll also just like chime in a bit here and there. Oftentimes I can't help myself. I try and kind of just observe, but yeah. So and also because I'm also a consultant freelancer, so like and and also like just maybe in conclusion, like I wouldn't say so. I think like in the bio, Candice, you did mention kind of like you're going to also touch on the neurodivergent aspects and so forth. And
Hmm.
I don't think I've ever formally been classified with any type of neurodivergency, but I think at the very least, I'm neurodivergent adjacent. I'm definitely more towards the side that is. Um, I mean, like just do
Non-typical.
just like look at how I'm doing an introduction, like anyone with with more charm and charisma would be like, all right, welcome guys, tonight we have a great talk. I'm just like, yeah, the Christmas tree, and oh yeah, and like like the awesomeness rating and whatever. So the proof is in the pudding. Like I'm obviously someone that sometimes struggles to kind of just like get his thoughts and stuff in order. So and I think this is specifically also aimed at people who don't necessarily have that natural, I want to say, kind of ability to just like engage and be charming and whatever. So for the rest of us that are just like networking out of necessity, I hope this is going to be useful. But with no further ado, I just want to quickly just give a shout out to our sponsors, KRS, IO Digital, and NML. Like, they help us keep the lights on. They help us pay like things like StreamYard, and as a non-profit, like auditing and all that stuff. There's a lot involved. So thanks to them, like they kind of really help out. So I just want to give a shout out to them. And then I will hand over to Candice. And Candice, you can just start by, I guess, introducing yourself and who you are and what you're going to be talking about tonight. And just quickly before we get into that, please, guys, if you have any questions, any remarks, please put them in the text chat. I will stop Candice every now and then, and we'll maybe respond to some of the questions, put them here up on the screen and so forth. So Candice, you're welcome to at any point kind of just like stop or say like, are there any specific questions? And we can start diving into them a bit. So yeah, as we go, just leave them. And I think then every now and then we'll just go through the questions and kind of like respond to them. So yeah, please use that. But yeah, then I'm happy for you to kick it off, Candice.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you for everyone for joining tonight or today. For some of you, I've noticed there's some international names in the audience that I can see and recognize. It's so nice to see people I know in the audience. So this talk is called Networking for People Who Hate Networking, although after Skulk's introduction, I think I may rename it to Networking Out of Necessity, because that's just genius. So thank you for that. I'm going to steal that if you don't mind. I'm Candice. I am a community systems strategist. So I help people who build community to build custom systems that actually help them connect with their community, because everybody knows that marketing and community can be quite an operational nightmare. But a lot of what I do is networking. I actually have spoken at 4 events a month since April. And that's probably a little bit much, but I actually am a little bit addicted because I really enjoy meeting with people, sharing their stories and basically sharing mine. So today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about networking. But first, I must share that when I was in matric, I was someone who couldn't even look someone in the eyes. Okay, like I would rehearse conversations in my head. I would even rehearse them in the mirror. And then I would go and I would completely avoid them in real life. Compliments in general, I would pretty much be terrified of them because it would just be too much attention on me that made me feel very uncomfortable. I often spent most of my breaks in high school hiding in the library, reading books and imagining grander lives, to be honest. But when it honestly came time for university, I realized that I was in Joburg, I was going to study in Grahamstown, and it actually was a whole other province. Like, that means only 2 people from my grade were going, and in like a school or university of thousands of people, no one would know who I was. Like, I had a really rare opportunity to just like let down my mask and be who I wanted to be without my parents around, just being myself. And I really decided to try and pursue that, specifically when I saw this quote, okay? Do one thing that scares you every day. And this really inspired me because I like promised myself in my orientation week, I would find something that I would commit to for the rest of my university career that would scare me every single day. And as I was going through, like one day, my friend forced me into the drama theater where I literally witnessed one of the lecturers on stage doing his version of being born, like being alive on stage like a single human. And I guess, that's when I decided, let's go. Like, I'm going to do that. And I did drama at Rhodes University for 2 years as someone who was I couldn't even look people in the eye. And I'm not going to lie, I hated absolutely every second of it. I really did. For 2 years, I hated it. I was rolling around on stage. I was at one point taped to cellophane to a tree because let's experiment with things. I don't know, vocal tutorials like felt like I was chewing glass, trying to like get people to hear what I was doing. And honestly, these bits of discomfort, like they were not, I wanted to say these were like micro doses of fear, but it was very extreme. Okay. Like I really went quite extreme into this. And before I realized it, I was having a conversation with someone one day and I was looking them in the eye and I didn't feel uncomfortable and I didn't want to run away. And it was so easy. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. When did I become this person? When did I become that person who could do that? And I actually realized I didn't. I didn't become a different person. I am not a different person. And just by doing the things that I had never done before, I kind of accidentally learned that there are some pains in life that are worth tolerating for growth. There are some things that are like worth risking and you may not like it, but there are those pains, and that they also are pains that are just not worth it. Not worth it, not for anything in the world. Okay. And so I must say, if you're here and networking makes your stomach drop, like if it makes you feel like it made me rolling around on that stage, I promise you that's not the extreme I'm going to ask you to go to. But you just need to find a way to network that makes connection work for your brain, you know, like that actually works for you. So if you're going to listen to me here for the next little bit, we're going to talk about a gentle 3-step framework, the SAFE framework, because, you know, AI says that helps people learn things easily. Then I've got some questions that you can steal and screenshot and memorize which ones you like. You only need 2 or 3. And then I'm going to give you some tips on how to adjust your environment so that you can actually go forth and network without having to fake it, lose your energy, or feel like it's a constant like exercise to sell yourself or prove yourself or be better, you know? Okay, so before I started this talk, I had to, you know, do some research, as one does, and I went and asked our AI friends, okay, what do ChatGPT and Grok and Claude think we humans, what are the top 5 reasons we humans hate networking? And number 1, it's because we feel it feels fake or manipulative. Number 2, like there's this level of social anxiety and social awkwardness. There's also number 3, there's your time and energy drain. Number 4, there's this massive pressure to self-promote yourself. And number 5, there's like sometimes you can experience clickiness or gatekeeping. And that was quite an interesting one for me, I'm not going to lie. But I'm very curious for those of you who are here and are listening. I'd love to know, like, just comment like a 1, 2, 3, or 4, if any of these are things that stop you from networking. Because I think it would be good for me to know who's in the audience as a, I don't want to say it, but marketer. I like to know who my audience is so that I can just make sure I understand who I'm talking to, and also make sure that I don't talk about irrelevant stuff, most importantly. So I see some 1s in the chat. So you feel fake or manipulative. I do get that quite a lot. A 4, pressure to self-promote. We've also got a 2, social anxiety. Okay, that I definitely feel, especially if you're neurodivergent, that will come across quite a lot. Okay, so I see what's coming through. Thank you, everybody. There's another 1, there's some 2s. Okay, so 1, 2, and 4. There's some 2s, some 5s. Interesting. Okay, so a nice spread. I appreciate you participating.
Apparently
here.
Everyone has just insane levels of energy.
Energy.
Like that's never what's holding you back.
It's really interesting. I was actually surprised that I thought 3 would come up a lot more, but it actually hasn't almost at all. Tiffany likes this quote. Okay. I would also, you know what? I've got a quote about comedy I'll tell you one day when we have coffee, Tiffany. But okay, cool. I like that 2s and 5s. Actually, it feels quite spread out. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to deal with all of these situations, okay? But firstly, like I said, as I was preparing for this talk, AI was like, you should make your ideas into a framework so people can remember it. So I was like, okay, then give me a framework. And it did. So I like this specifically because if you were at my DevConf talk, you will know that I made everyone in the room talk to each other and network. And that is not something I could do here, but even if we were in person, I wouldn't, because I on purpose think that it's important to build a networking strategy that works for you. And that is like the main point I want to reinforce here. So rather than forcing yourself into a mold that isn't enjoyable, let's build a framework that works for you. Okay, so firstly, when I'm going networking, I like to set a goal for my event or for that like endeavor, if you will, adventure or whatever, mission. But you really have to be careful, okay? Because this is the very, very first spot where me and others can spot when I'm not being authentic. If my goal for networking is inauthentic, it's like laser focused, it's super obvious. And now I'd like you to like take a moment and just like close your eyes, and don't worry, you're in a safe space. At least from me, I'm not going to come through the screen, and like just think back to like, what is your worst networking experience? Okay, so think back, like what was so absolutely bad about that networking experience? What was it about what you were trying to do or what they were trying to do that made that experience feel icky or uncomfortable? Like, what was that feeling in your body? And like, did that purpose feel genuine? Did it feel manipulative? How did it feel in your body? Did it feel not good? Like something you had to protect yourself against? Like keep that in mind. You can open your eyes, and that's not the kind of experience you want to be aiming for. Like you can tell immediately that person's intention was not good, okay? But then like, cool, so how the heck do you set a good authentic purpose? Like what do you do? Like what is authenticity? It's also one of the most annoying things. Be authentic. I'm so sorry to say that, but it really is. But what does it look like? And if you've seen someone, if you've had a good networking experience, it would feel completely different from that. And I would love it if you could share examples in the chat. Actually, I will go through them afterwards, because I think it would be so fascinating to know like what it's good to know what it looks like when others see what a good example looks like, right? Because then you can also pursue that kind of purpose potentially. So an inauthentic purpose is basically like, I'm here to just say hello, pitch my podcast, ask you to like buy my product, and then I'm out. I'm not like here to really engage with you, right? And it's really funny because the exact same person in a very different situation can actually appear way more authentic and genuine, even in a comedic context like this, you know. I mean, everyone knows before and after Elon Musk, but you know, authentic purpose is like, I'm here to learn one thing from one person I didn't know, or I would like to meet one person I'd like to see again. Like that is a simple, authentic purpose that anyone can get behind. And, you know, I've learned that I can never go wrong if I have a strong sense of purpose that is rooted in building relationships. And that will build real trust, real credibility, and real connection. Okay, so still, no matter how good my purpose, I really need to, I find myself worrying often, like, what is that person thinking about me? Did I say that funny? Like, did I come across right? You know, like, even if I'm like, you're good intention, I'm good intention, I'm really awkward. I misinterpret stuff. And so like, it's very hard when like you're worried about small talk topics that you don't really care about, or, you know, you really just don't know how to engage and you're worried about that situation all the time, what's to come. How do you get rid of that feeling? I was like, what? I had to stop and ask myself, because it was stopping me from really being able to engage, because I was an event organizer trying to engage, and I was like literally hiding in the back packing the snacks, because that's this, everyone needs snacks. I'm being helpful. But how did I not obsess about how I come across? And the only solution I have found, honestly, is to ask better questions. You have to ask better questions. And it's so much more important to focus on learning about somebody else. Like, why do I have to worry about like the perfect answer or like sounding something good, if actually all I'm doing is I memorize 3 really good questions on topics I'm interested in and can talk about for ages on end to no end, you know? And then I can take one good question and I can share that one question with many, many, many people. And I can even switch between my 3 questions. And I can't tell you, you will never have the same conversation again with 2 different people if you have a good question at hand. There is nothing more important than a good set of questions. Okay. If you're really curious about my obsession with questions, ping me on LinkedIn and I'll send you the cartoon about that convinced me about it. So you don't want to be doing boring small talk. You won't be having like those conversations if you prepare the questions. Now, I know this might be a little bit hard to believe, and I'm very curious, like, Skulk, what was the last thing that made you rage quit?
Rage quit?
Mm-hmm.
You can have to be more specific than that.
I mean, the last thing that made you, I don't know, want to smash a keyboard. There we go.
I don't really get angry that much.
Really? That's really interesting. Why?
I tend to be a crier.
A crier.
Yeah,
Okay.
I tend to cry when I get really overwhelmed. I don't really get angry that much. Although I guess my kids would say different.
Fair enough, but that's a matter of perspective, right?
So I don't know. Like, let me think about. Yeah, I guess probably something like would be something with the kids, just like deliberately not listening to me. I guess like doing the classic thing that kids do, where you're like, you talk to them, you're like, cool, don't do this again. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I understand. Okay, cool, we're good. And you turn around and they just straight up go and do it again. You're like, what?
Right, exactly.
What do I even? How do I handle this? Yeah, so I guess that's the closest. But like to your previous point of like awkward networking experiences, man, like I can go on forever.
Yeah.
I have a couple of them. Can I share one of them?
Please do.
So,
please share.
I think it was about 2 years ago. When was it that OfficeZen launched the TypeScript documentary? So I was invited to the premiere. I think it was 2 years ago, and so effectively went and like people like started arriving and whatever, like pretty formal event-ish thing. And like I see someone I know like across the road, and I kind of wave to them, and my wife is like, "The hell are you doing?" And I'm like, "It's person X," and she's like, "No, it's not them." And I'm like, "Oh shit!" And then you do this thing where like this person, like the rest of the entire evening, like you kind of avoid them, and you're like, "Oh shit, is that?" And they're gonna be like, "Why did you wave at me, you weirdo?" and whatever, and whatever, and effectively, event ends or whatever. Person messages me on Slack. He's like, "Why did you act so weird like at the event?" Like, oh. So yeah, it turns out it was actually them, and I don't know why my wife thought it wasn't them, and like, oh
That's
man,
so funny.
And then I have the classic one as well, where I was on a radio interview once, and the person was like, welcome to the show, and I was like, welcome to you too, and then it's just my brain just went like, and I just couldn't speak a coherent sentence. Yeah, like it happens.
When you throw the host off so much that they don't even know what to do next. Let
me real talk. Like it actually went so bad that actually ended up not like it was a pre-recorded thing, and it ended up being so bad that they actually didn't end up not broadcasting it. just because I was just like so rattled and
Yeah.
whatever. And
And they
it's
couldn't edit
interesting.
it.
Clearly not.
Wow,
You
Scott,
work
that
with
was
so
really a
much.
hiccup.
But to be fair, like that was back like in 2011 or something. Like, like before I was, and it's interesting. I don't want to make this talk too much about myself, but I can relate to this quite a lot. I do say like I've never been formally diagnosed with like, you know, autism or whatever, but I'm definitely leaning, like if I were to get diagnosed today, a lot of things would make sense to me in retrospect. But obviously when I grew up, like autism was like this thing, like it's almost like on the degree of like having Down syndrome or something. It's like, yeah, you're like completely like not, you can't have, you're just completely like, not able to even live a normal life. And I think so. It was kind of very stigmatized and stuff. So, but anyway, so yeah,
Yeah.
so it was challenging for me. I did at some point actually go and see a occupational therapist just to kind of
Mhm.
help me, just like with like stuff that comes normally to other people. And what's very interesting, and I think this would be my piece of advice, is strangely enough, like tech helped me actually with that, because you you immediately have something in common and that you can talk about, and that you can,
Mhm.
especially, given everything I just said, like, so I tend to geek out about things like a lot. And like being able to just geek out about things, and like being kind of, you're not like, so what do you do? And
Mhm.
okay, um did you grow up in Cape Town? Like, so it's just like, yeah, but
Yeah.
have you seen this? Have you heard about the AWS outage? Like, yo, that was insane, dude. Like, did you hear about the beds catching fire? Did you hear about the beds catching fire anyway?
No,
Candace.
no,
So apparently
no.
there was some
But
IoT, there was some IoT thing, like some smart beds that
Mhm.
relied on AWS to set the temperature. And obviously, so when AWS went down, like everyone's beds kind of caught
Caught
fire.
fire.
Yeah.
Disaster.
But
Lovely.
anyway, so exactly. So
Okay.
I think that makes it a lot easier. But anyway, 8 sleep. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm
100%.
actually like, I think I'm maybe going to try and do a DevConf talk on that, in terms of called cloud codependence, which is like, I think maybe we've kind of shifted a bit too far in terms of putting everything in the cloud, and we maybe need to dial it back a bit and start putting more things in your local client again. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a different topic. All right,
It's a
I'll let you
different
continue,
talk.
Candice. Like, case in
No
point, this is
worries.
what I'm saying. Like
That's
look
all
at
right.
this. Look at this. Yeah.
Thanks, Gulk. Well, I mean, to my point, like the question I asked spurred a question, and which spurred another question, which could spur another question. And I guess to my point, I would say if your conversations are bland, your questions are not serving you. If you're asking people where they live, you're going to learn where they live. Do you care? Are you going to stalk them? Is that the point? Ask questions that you want to talk about. Talk about things that you are interested in, like beds on fire, or, things that mental health, if that interests you, like go directions that actually work for you. Okay, so these are 10 of the questions that I absolutely adore. I collect these like Schmiegel on Easter. I literally just like really, really love it. I really like the one, what energizes you the most. Another one that I like is, if your company had to stop paying you, what part of your work would you do for free? What book could you write today? Something like that, like what one thing would you be the best at in a room full of 100 random strangers? Also really love those questions, because you get to learn about people, what energizes them. And I find, for me personally, what energizes other people is conversation fuel. Just like, yeah, let's keep learning about you. And if you're curious enough, they will also be curious enough about you. It does, they'll ask the questions that are easier to answer, So take a screenshot if you want these questions. I don't have it downloadable. um, so next up, I'm going to challenge you to learn one thing from my last experience or my past experience, and face one thing that scares you at every single networking opportunity. So Skulk, at that networking opportunity, you should have gone up to that person who you looked at weirdly and been like, I'm so sorry, I'm Skulk. Introduce yourself, just get the awkwardness. That could have been a challenge, potentially. I know you're brave enough to do something like that, potentially, but pick one thing and don't try to do all of them at once, because if that's like, you don't want to do more than you can handle, and you want to be kind to yourself, So before you arrive, just choose one scary goal. It can be like, say hello to a stranger. One stranger, literally, it could be that easy. And then next time it could be 2 strangers, and you can if you're like a scorekeeper, there we go, you can set goals. And then you can ask one follow-up question if you find that that's something that you struggle with doing. Practice doing the hard thing. I promise it will get easier before you know it. And maybe if you find that you always feel like you need to pitch or like sell yourself or talk about yourself, rather tell a story about yourself or something you did, rather than talking about what you do, or the work, or what you sell. Or even if you're very much an introvert, like if your only goal is to stay for 30 minutes and then get the hang out of there, do that. That is a great first step at like getting towards your networking goals. You really have to make that clear. I have to make that clear. So okay, so you'll be surprised how much you can handle over time as this goes. And I must just say, I'm not saying you're not going to be scared, okay? My one scary thing for today is doing this talk, okay? I've done it before. It is always different in every situation, and I did make some changes because I wanted to zhuzh it up for you guys. So I really, it doesn't mean that it's hard. It just means that you get better at doing the hard thing, honestly. Okay, and so lastly, there's enough gurus and whatever people out there who's going to tell you, hustle, be better, build habits. We all got enough things we need to be better at. But with networking, I've honestly learned that it's vital to not force myself into spaces that I'm not comfortable with for whatever reason. On one day I might feel comfortable with it, on the very next day my gut might feel different. Don't do it. If you want a thrill, go shark cage diving. Honestly, that is, you don't need to play with adventure in a work context, especially, or in a context you feel might cause you personal harm in some way. Don't do it. Elevates, okay? So if you hear anything from me today, hear this. It is, you need to pick networking containers that fit your nervous system, okay? And how? Now, how? That's very important. Now, how I like to adjust to my environment, okay? If I'm feeling overstimulated, or if I'm someone who doesn't like high stimulation environments in general, you opt for low stimulation situations, You can sign up to a mentorship program where you get matched with someone asynchronously and only ever have to maybe chat to one person, You do peer matching. You can even sign up for pen pals. There's so many things that you can do that are low stimulation that never requires you to even talk to a person, like LinkedIn connections, Facebook friends. There's actually some people on this chat today who I've never met in person. I've just met on LinkedIn. So that is real connection. There's real relationship there because we've taken time to learn to get to know each other and to be curious about each other. So if you want something more physical, if you're someone who doesn't like to be in your head too much, or work, you need to be distracted. Maybe you like to go for a walking coffee, or you want to go out and play sports with a sports team, or you organize a craft group and you talk about stuff while you craft. I've done that. It's the most soothing for the soul. So it really is quite important. Now, online, and I probably don't have to mention this to the majority of you, to be honest, but online communities are where it's at. I build online communities, but it's an opportunity to expand your network in a little bit more of a targeted way. You can network instead of on LinkedIn where you're spraying and praying, hoping to find the ideal people to meet. Why don't you go find a community? If you like dogs and you want to just talk about dogs and you're tired of thinking about work all day, find a community about dogs. Honestly, I've got one of my favorite communities, and I'll share the link here, it's just like one of my favorite ones ever, is the Open Letter, because I network, I learn, and I find work in that community. For me, that community is the bomb. And it's also on WhatsApp, weirdly, so it's really easy to access. That works for me. There's also my Notion ambassador community. I work in the FEDSA community as well. There's so many online communities where you can basically engage with people. But if you prefer to then do the in-person version, you can also do that. So it's important to be aware of your constraints. If you have an energy problem, cap it at a time period. Make sure you have good boundaries that makes you comfortable, or like, you know what makes you feel comfortable and you know what makes you feel uncomfortable, and that you know when you're in an uncomfortable situation, you know how to deal with it, you know? So once you know these things about yourself, you can basically create these tools to get you out of these situations if they go bad, okay? And I'll give you some examples of what I mean. But if you have really good examples of how you like to adjust your environment, please also just pop them in the chat. One example is, I always, before exams, it was a weird thing in high school, it started, I always like overthink it, and before talks I overthink it, and I go a little bit mad. And if anyone talks to me, I'll snap at them. I'm a little bit anxious. And so what I started doing was, I'll put my headphones on, and if you see me before talk listening to headphones, I bet you can, like any money, it is Queen's I Want to Break Free. That song and me before any kind, I will put it on repeat in my ears and I'll just jam. And that is how I cope with my anxiety. And I'll do a little dance. And now I also hum, because my speech coach says that's a good idea. So I hum and I sing, the song. That is my way of coping. That is how I've built, that's like my safety blanket or my weighted blanket in a public situation. This is how you adapt. You kind of have to build your networking safety kit in some senses. Another thing that I have in my safety kit is right over here. It goes on my keys whenever I leave, and it has one vital thing, and all my meds when I leave, but loops. These are my loop earring, like earplug thingies. They're not earplugs, but they're silent sound. And I've realized I actually get very overstimulated in public places and with traffic and stuff. So if I have these in, I am so much more of a nice person. Oh my gosh. I was so irritated with the Uber driver the other day, like really irritated, because he was being a bit weird. He was being a bit weird, to be honest, but I was very irritated with how he was speaking. And so I just put my loops in, and then suddenly I didn't have the whooshing from the car. Sounds weird, and that me not having to deal with that stimulus gave me a lot more energy to deal with the guy. And I was just like, why am I being so silly? That's totally fine, So it's really, really important. I see some advice. Tess has taken the advice. How do you order coffee here? Quiet. Oh gosh. Okay, I'm not going to engage with Duncan there. That could be dangerous. Okay, so basically, what I'm saying is, this framework can be adapted and you can use it in many situations. Now, I want to specifically go back to what we were talking about earlier. Okay, so for those of you who said that you don't like networking because it feels fake or manipulative, okay, so you have to go into this, make sure you have your purpose, okay? And if it makes it easier for you, say your purpose out loud. Switch in your mind. Like I found, instead of saying you're going to pitch, ask for, get permission to talk about, and be very clear with yourself and them. I like to say, I actually have lines I memorized. This is my autistic self. Hi, I'm here to meet new people. What are you here to do? I went to a conference alone, and I took the networking app, and I walked around. I was like, hey, did you know there's a networking app? Would you like me to show you how to use it? And I literally acted as concierge onboarding, telling everyone how to use the networking app, because I was there alone and didn't know anybody. And everyone knew me by the end of the conference, and I won the game, which was fun. But, that was not, my purpose was to find a reason to talk to people, not to win the networking game. It was, hey, I want to play this networking game. You might want to play it. Let's learn how to play it together, And that was just a really fun way for me to go about that. That wasn't like, it was authentic, and it wasn't manipulative either, because if people were like, I don't want to play that game, I was like, sweet, have a fun conference, I'm out. And then I'd go to the next person, and they just thought I was the weirdo who asked them about an app, to be honest. Maybe they even thought I was part of the conference. Who knows? And then make sure you ask the questions. Okay, so ask better follow-up questions. If you feel someone else is being fake or manipulative, you can change the conversation. Use those 3 questions that you've memorized and be like, actually, I'm quite curious. What is the biggest problem you've dealt with recently? Or what makes you so passionate about talking to, about this, Turn it into something that is about them. And people actually really love talking about themselves if you give them the chance. Even shy people, they really do. Like, if you're kind enough and you're just curious and soft enough about it with your questions, and you will learn what questions work and what questions don't. That is a bit of the practice. But you can also borrow questions. Like I say, ask your friends. So if you feel that networking makes you feel like you feel socially anxious, okay? There were quite a lot of people who said that this was a problem. Now, number one, I am sorry to say that networking is one of those spaces. It's an unpredictable space, okay? Depending on your container to some extent, you can, like I said, you can choose a container that gives you the kind of engagement you want without having to give more than you are able to, right? Like, if it's just text-based, that's one thing. If you don't want to jump on a call or go out of your house ever, that's fine. Choose those containers, but you will have to face a fear. Like, you will, if to get better at networking, it's an exercise in being better at communication. It is a skill you learn. And I can 100% say, as someone who's like now getting paid to refer people to people and be like, don't you want to just help me? I'm like, this is a weird thing. It is who you know in the world, honestly, that gets you opportunities. And that is the one thing I've learned, if anything. And so if you are anxious, as far as constraints, 2 things I like to do is to have an opener and an exit. Okay, so an opener for me is often a question. Okay, so hi, I'm Candice. It seems really random, but what's been energizing you lately? Or why are you at this booth? Or what did you think of that talk we were just in? Or I noticed you posted that thing. What made you do that? Ask a question. That is a great opener. And then have an exit. I have exits planned, and I love using the bathroom as an exit. It's the safest exit because no one ever asks.
Everyone does. It's just. Sorry, I just.
Yeah.
I just quickly need to go to the loo. But we'll chat later. All right. And it's
yes,
sure, cool.
Exactly. And you know what I've started practicing is I've been trying. Sometimes it feels like, I'm not going to lie. When I'm at a conference and I'm like, I'm going to go to the loo, and then I walk over and I talk to someone else and I'm like, I'm going to go to the loo. I start to feel dishonest, right? I start to, you want to if you start to feel like your exits are not honest, then that bit of dishonesty can come in, So I do think it's important to know you need an exit plan. What is your exit plan?
FYI, I do actually go to the loo, but it maybe wasn't that urgent. Or I just go and wash my hands. So I'm going to the loo, but no, I wouldn't go all right, yeah, I need to go to the loo and then just turn around and talk to someone else. Yeah, I don't do that.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, I've been caught in a conference where I've done that, and I'll walk down and someone will talk to me, and then I won't pay attention, and then I don't realize that I've done that, and then so I will rather say, I'm gonna go get a coffee over there. Hopefully they don't want one too. Sometimes they do want one, so that's not always a safe one, I'm not saying. But I've started trying to just be honest and be like, I'm a little bit overstimulated. I'm going to go take a break upstairs by myself for a bit. I'll see you later. And not once has a person ever looked at me and went like, that's weird. And if they did, I mean, I'm getting to a point where I don't think I care. But if you just you can be authentic and set your boundaries. That's totally okay. Okay. if you think, we didn't have too many people that said that this is a time and an energy drain. But if you did think networking, if you are someone, I know someone was coming to this who registered, who said that like they go to so many networking events that I think it was someone that they go to so many networking events that like you're so tired of meeting people who have no interest in building relationships with you. And I can imagine that. Like oh my gosh, but I also, and I went to an event recently where that happened, an event with so many event organizers, and I was just like disappointed at how few of those people cared about following up afterwards, and if I did follow up, who even like engaged with me. And I was quite surprised with that, but I do find that I almost knew immediately at the conference which those people would be, because they didn't really have any interest in me, which means they didn't ask any questions back about me, which, I mean, you if you're asking all the questions, you do realize, trust me, it's the other person, you got to share. And so that is one hint that someone might not be worth investing that time in. But if they are someone you just really want to like talk to or meet, like it's always just good, go say hello, say goodbye, like that's all. Just I really wanted to meet you, and you really don't have to build a massive relationship with certain people. And your intention can also be, I'm here to learn what one thing, because I know I see this person at every conference. I'm going to learn one thing I can ask them about next time, just so that you can start to build a relationship, because that is useful, especially if you see this person at every single conference all the time and you need to build a relationship. If you don't, then whatever, don't bother. So yeah, I think like one thing is just like choose things that save your energy and that where your energy works. There's different types of communities. Some communities do online calls, some things are online or in person, some things are text-based. Just choose what suits you. Okay, then we had the pressure to self-promote. Now here again, it's really important that you have to face the fear of not pitching, because actually I think pitching is quite a crutch. It is something that we're taught is what you do with networking, and we lean on it a little bit because it's the only framework we're given. And like you got to talk about and sound clever and tell them all your like skills and what you've accomplished in life. And honestly, I don't find that interesting in the least. Don't even like reading my bio when I'm talking. Like I'm not interested in talking about myself
If I
in that
wanted
way.
that, I would just go on LinkedIn. Just open
Exactly.
my feed. Yeah.
Go read my bio. Yeah, exactly. So if you find that you are pitching too much, switch to storytelling. That's the easiest way to switch. There are storytelling frameworks online. If you are someone who likes frameworks, you can go Google, and that gives you nice 3 steps on what is a basic story, and you can start practicing telling stories instead. Stories about the impacts that you have. I can get so excited about my mentorship programs and how I helped this person. I helped this person in America yesterday land a deal with the client and he's basically helping 99 nurses get better at their health and fitness so that they can enjoy the workplace and their job and then help more people. I was like, you know what? That was cool. I just networked and helped someone across the world. That kind of story is amazing. And then people are like, wait, what did you do that helped them? I'm like, oh, actually, we spoke about how does he pitch to this client? And it's quite difficult because, he was struggling with A, B, and C. And I don't have to pitch. That's not a pitch, it's a storytelling, and it encourages questions. And I now encourage a slight caveat, collect questions, but as you go, start to just recognize, and you'll recognize people who have good stories. They know they're good stories. Hey, they'll tell you. And I think, Skulk, I've heard some of your good stories before, people who have good stories, they remember them, they use them again. So practice finding good stories that make people curious enough to ask questions about you. And that is the next level. Okay, so once you've got your set of questions that you're good with, start collecting those stories and then people want to talk about you and want to know about you, and you don't have to feel like you're pushing. Okay, if you feel like you're gatekeeping, and there's gatekeeping, now this is a bit of a next level. I'm not going to lie, but I would suggest finding someone who's friendly. Find a friendly person in that community who is a little bit, maybe they're a little bit on the outs, or maybe they're just very friendly and like they will say hello to you and have a coffee with you, and then get to know them and ask them, oh, so why do you know the community? Who else do you know? And ask for an introduction. I can't tell you how easy an introduction is. It's free. It's like one of the freest things I can give to people that can level up their business. It can help them meet someone new. Like an introduction is so valuable. If you're in a business, you should be asking for introductions. You should be making partners who know what you do and who can immediately refer you without a question. They have a template email. Introductions will break down your gates. Okay, I promise. Like, don't be scared to ask. And lastly, I just want to say, you now know the SAFE framework. I tried to make it nice and easy for you, but I'm going to challenge you to go ask yourself, what one scary thing will you do today? Or maybe tomorrow, because it's a little bit late for some people. So just remember that if you do one scary thing, I promise you growth will come in the right areas. Like if you do scary things, you will learn. So yes, my name is Candice, and I'm so grateful for all of you for giving me your attention today, for listening to me waffle. I would really appreciate it if you just give me any questions you have. We've got a few more minutes. If you do want to follow me, I do have a newsletter on, I think it's this side. And then I am running a Notion event. It's very unrelated, but some of you know that I'm running this. And if you want to attend, there's a free ticket because FEDSA is amazing and I love all of you. So yeah, if you want to join that event, you can sign up there with that code.
Nice. All right. Cool. Thanks so much, Candice. I, as always, have just like a ton of things to say in response. So I would encourage the rest of you to any other questions you might have to kind of maybe just, add them in the text chat. Otherwise, you're going to have to listen to the Skulk Venter show for the next 20 minutes. So it's up to you guys. I mean, you get what you deserve if you don't ask any questions. But yeah,
Gotta come prepared.
Yes. So yeah, I'd love to unpack some of that stuff. But yeah, I'm happy for you guys to ask some questions in the text chat, while I waffle away. So I'd be curious to get your thoughts on. So I think for me, one thing that took me very long to learn is that at some point the goal is not to get better at talking to people, to get better at not being awkward, to get better at not, making people uncomfortable or whatever, but to get better at being at peace when that things happen. And so for me, I've definitely, there's one specific instance of kind of a event that I remember when I was a bit in my early days in the tech industry, where I wanted to introduce myself to someone and at an event, and they just kind of went along the lines of sorry, could you see I'm talking to this person? I just felt so, I don't know, I don't really know. It's not even embarrassment, but it's almost, it just felt so demeaning and
shame.
Shame. I'm sorry, dude. I just wanted to, I'm sorry. I just wanted to try and be nice. And obviously that really upset me. And some days I still actually just think about this and I'm like, oh shit. But I think also at some point I realized that the goal is also to become more at peace with that and not to minimize the instances that happens, to be able to get rid of that happening, but to, when that happens, to just be like, it's okay. I don't even need to justify it for myself. I don't need to be like, yeah, maybe they were having a bad day, or maybe it's just them, it's not me, or it's I don't even need to justify it. It's okay. It's just, I guess it's just the reality of humans. And there's this guy who used to work with my wife. he was the porter at the hospital, and he always used to say like, "These humans, you know, Moss." So like, yeah, sometimes my wife and I say that to one another as well, like, "These humans, you know, Moss." So yeah, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that in terms of just kind of building a, because it's also one of those things that you inherently know it. You inherently know that the goal is to like not care too much about what people think. But it's also one of those things where it's like, cool, thanks, I'm cured. You know, it's
Yeah.
um, like how
Well,
practically do you address that? Yeah.
I mean, people tell me, oh, forget about it or move on. I literally can't. If you tell me, oh, remember
Mm,
that time, I feel that emotion, I know that emotion, I feel it right now, I can't forget it, I feel it. I don't
mm,
understand that concept of let it go.
mm,
So what I do understand about how I feel and networking and the stuff that we're scared about, right? Is networking out of all of the situations, you can't control it. You feel like you can't control how the other person's going to react. You don't know where the situation's going to go. You don't know what you're going to say. You don't know if everything's going to go right. Like there's so many reasons not to be able to control the situation, right? And if I've learned anything in my mental health journey, it's that like I need to learn the only thing I can learn to control, and it's a battle, is to control my own nervous system. Like that is an uphill battle for me sometimes with my PTSD and my autism. It really can be quite difficult for me to not react and then trust that I'm going to react well in the right situation. You know, I think that building trust with myself is difficult. And it's difficult to do that if I don't have an understanding of what's making me reactive, right? So, like, I know that there's certain situations I need to know that if this is bad and my body's telling me bad, this is bad, I need to know that I did the best I could. And that person's reacting badly, not because I intended anything bad, and I don't need to try to prove that to them. I don't need to now work myself up because that's not going to help. I need to regulate myself and calm myself. And that's really me fighting against what I've learned is this, like, we've got this constant, either in life we crave something, you want something because it's good, you want more of it, or we avoid it, we're like reject it. Like that is like the basic, you know, monkey brain instinct of like we cling to stuff or we don't want it. Like you don't want bad things and you do want good things in life, but that is, you need to make sure that you are not reactive in that way. The only control I truly really have is of controlling my nervous system and making sure that if something bad happens, I don't go monkey brain and react in a way that isn't in accord with, you know, like how I think I should. And the only way because that's the only control issue I have and the only thing I really can control. And so I guess that's been my real struggle when it comes to networking, is like making sure that when I'm engaging with people, I am going in being authentic, not masking, because that is my default, is to mask. And then also being safe, making sure that I don't react because I'm putting myself in a non-masking space and I'm being vulnerable. And sometimes people think that's very weird. And sometimes people react very badly to that. And I need to be able to respond well instead of react when they respond to me, because I can't do anything about other people. So I guess in networking, I guess that's been my biggest struggle, is just learning to trust that if something goes bad in a networking reaction or interaction, I can just like trust my gut impulse, like react like that, you know, don't like trust that it's calm and like I can handle it. Don't feel and get flustered, because that can just make the things worse, and it puts me into I feel like I can't control the situation. And then it also makes me avoidance of ever wanting to go back and network with anybody ever again, because I don't know how to talk to people, and I said something but they heard something different, you know.
There's also, I think, something to be said for just actively seek out people that tend to be more generous and kind of more forgiving. Like these events and whatever are generally made up of like plurality of different people, and seek out people that are, like I can think about a couple, like you're gonna hate me for mentioning your name, but Ewald, like I think you're a good example. Like if you go to also shout out to Ewald who's not here. This one goes out to you, Ewald. Someone ping Ewald. But so like I think he's a really good example, and I'm probably embarrassing him a lot now by saying this, but like I mean, like you can just go up to him and just have fun. Like I don't ever, when I see him at an event or whatever, I just go talk to him and I'm just like like having fun. Like it's not, I'm never
You know,
concerned about. Yeah, go ahead.
I have such, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I
No,
have
go
such a
for it.
great story about Evolt because at my first conference ever, I was panicked. I met someone else who told me recently how panicked I was at my first ever dev conf. I was so freaking out. I was freaking other people out. Like people didn't know how to calm me down, apparently. I can't remember this, but it was, yeah. And Evolt basically came to me and he was like, hey, that bottom spot is mine. Don't even try. And I posed myself. It took me so out of my head. Again, it took me out of my initial reaction. I was like, oh, find people who can give you that. Yeah.
It's interesting whenever I'm around him. Sorry, and I also don't want to turn this into the Evil Dawn show, but whenever I'm around him, like we kind of do this classic Afrikaans thing that Afrikaans guys do, is you try and one up one another about who can self-deprecate themselves the most. And it's like, you think your talk is bad, bruh, I haven't even started with mine. And then like he would be like, yo, but like at least you have a talk. I don't even have a topic yet. And it's like it's almost you kind of one up one another, where it's just like trying to outcompete one another in terms of like how much you suck. But yeah, so there's a couple of really great questions. There's one by Richard, which is, how can you make yourself more approachable to people who want to network specifically? So I'd be curious what your thoughts are on that, Candice.
That's a really, really, really good question. I honestly think that the easiest way is to put yourself into situations, especially if you are someone who is networking with the goal of, like, especially as a business owner, you're probably networking with the goal of meeting a specific kind of audience with probably a more genuine but still work related authentic reason, but I actually find that especially with groups that I want to network with. Like for me, I'm a marketer, and I'm probably the most popular audience I'm with is in the tech audience, the tech space. I speak mostly in tech, and that is because I was like, I actually really like that kind of audience. I feel like comfortable speaking in that kind of crowd. I feel like I can relate and I have interesting things to say, and I went and I inserted myself into that situation. And it's taken a very long time. Like I've been working in tech for like 10 years. And I'm only now like easy for people to approach, I would say, because I've put myself out there. I've said to people, I always do networking calls. I won't say that. I do coffee chats. I say yes when people reach out to me. I'm willing and I engage. And some people say too much, and I have to get better at boundaries, and that's fine. But I do think some people verge on the side of, I'm so busy in my product. I'm so busy in my product. I'm so busy on my train. But yeah, you have to go out there and say, come talk to me. I'm here. Go make yourself available in a public space, and that's the literal best way.
Also, shout out to everyone who's harassing Ewald on LinkedIn. Your good work. You're doing good work. Keep it up, guys. So okay, there's another great one, which is like, I think this is also a good question, which is like, if you're interested, where do you go about finding events, as it seems to miss so many of them? I've heard about Meetup, but I'm curious on your thoughts. So I can respond to that as well, but go ahead, Candice.
Okay, the one I use is Luma. I don't have the full link right now. Actually, I do. It's just luma.com. Easy. Basically, it's similar to Meetup, except I think it's more modern, and I think more people are using it because it actually gives people a little bit more, like organizers' ability to contact their audience. Like, it's kind of important when you're organizing an event. So Luma is brilliant because you can actually look for events all around the world. But my top number one way is I join communities. And not just that, if you go to like a community platform, like something like Circle or Heartbeat or any of the mighty networks, they all host a bazillion communities. And they all have like directories of all the communities that they host. So you can go and be like, I'm looking for a dog food community or a community because I'm getting divorced, so I need a lawyer and I can't afford it. So there's so many kinds of communities out there I can't even explain. That is my number one way to find events. Scott,
Yeah.
you said you had some.
So, like for me, okay, so actual physical events. So I think unfortunately, there tends to be less and less, in-person events nowadays than there were maybe like 5, 10 years ago. I think I don't know what the reason. I can like so obviously we used to run a lot more in-person stuff. The reasons why we don't that much anymore is because like back then I didn't have 2 kids, and like it just I think everyone involved in FedSA just had less responsibilities. So but I don't know, generally it seems like there tends to be a trend. I think it's maybe online stuff has just become much more accessible and easier. But then like so I think if you're looking for in-person stuff, don't discount conferences. Conferences are great. And so just look for tech conferences, and and some of them are expensive. Especially if you kind of are just a student or whatever, reach out to the organizers. Say, hey, I would really like to come, and I don't know, is there like I think one thing though that I always recommend people is like see if you can volunteer. If you want like a networking experience on steroids, try and volunteer for a meetup or a conference. Um, I've literally met people just because they were like the person who's like, okay, it's time for your talk. Let me mic you up or whatever. And I'm like, oh, what's your name? Whatever. I would have never met that person. So I think that's one. So there are,
And
yeah, go ahead.
also, I would subscribe to newsletters like the FedSA. You always put out your events, but I also like if there's a newsletter like the one I mentioned earlier, the open letter. That one, if they put out for South Africa a list of all of the events happening in South Africa this week, every week, and so if you're in whatever country, go and go check out who else. Offer Zen has lists, ZA Tech, like those are places where people are trying to advertise their events. I think also Startup Grind, lots of like ecosystem-y places run events. Yeah.
But Meetup is also great. Like, I mean, like if you haven't tried Meetup yet, like check it out. It's I think the thing is like there's this weird dynamic with Meetup where they like I don't want to get into too much of it, but like they're not the most organizer friendly platform, and I think that's the appeal of Luma. Yeah, it's a hassle just getting Meetup to do anything on your behalf or help you out with anything or whatever as an organizer. So one of the downstream benefits of that is that the communities who are on there like have been around for a very long time, like us. Like, I mean, like I wouldn't start FedSA on Meetup now. But like it's just we've been around for so long. It's like it just feels sad just like shutting that down. Like we're like 6,000 members and whatever. So like the plus side of that is that most of the stuff you would see are actually things that have been around for a long time and so forth, and not so much like people just starting a new thing and then after a week you don't hear about it anymore, like ever again or whatever. But yeah, Meetup is you'd be surprised. Like there's some really cool stuff on Meetup. I think that's worthwhile. And this is possibly even just something you can ask people is like, hey, I'm keen to like attend more events and stuff, especially if you are at an event. I mean, that's very topical. Like you say, like, I don't know, like, are there any other types of things like this that you regularly attend or whatever? Like, I don't really know the space that well. I'm curious, like, are there actually similar things that you'd be keen to recommend and whatever? And I think, like, also just go to events. Like, I go to the WordPress one. I spoke at WordCamp last year, and I haven't touched PHP in 7 years, I think. I last wrote PHP, yeah, like back when I was single. I didn't even have a girlfriend, never like actually married and
What a
two
metric,
kids.
Skulk.
Yeah. Well,
A unit of
coincidence?
measurement. My
Coincidence?
relationship.
I don't know. I'm not saying that I started like getting all the girls once I started writing JavaScript. Just saying, like, when I was writing PHP, I was single. I love you,
I'm
John.
gonna make
Don't
that's
don't
gonna
don't
be the
downvote this
next
video.
that's gonna be the next newsletter title. I'm
Mm,
just saying.
yeah. Yeah. It's like, okay,
Use
I don't even want to even
JavaScript if
go
you're
there.
single.
No, JavaScript's not gonna earn you any clout, but like, yeah, you need to really get in on that C or something. But anyway, yeah. Then there's another really great one. Uh, Someone mentioned, Tafik mentioned also. Hi, Tafik, nice to see you, dude. He mentioned like the tech leadership meetup. That's really great. They I think literally today or was yesterday announced the new upcoming one. They have great, and they've also been doing this forever. The Scrum meetups, what's it, Sugsa? They're also really great because there's also like a very wide variety of people. Um, and the other one, they actually have a conference, I think, coming up in March as well. Like, so they're really great. So I think my recommendation would be go to stuff that you. I also, like I'm mostly a JavaScript like developer, but I go to PyCon every year. I spoke at PyCon last year. I was planning on going to PyCon Africa this year, but I couldn't fly up to Joburg just because, yeah, kids went and got sick and almost broke their legs and who knows whatever. We were literally at the
But you
doctor
still didn't
today.
rage quit.
Well, wait until I get that doctor bill, and then we'll see. But yeah, so like yeah, go to stuff. Like, don't be like I code Go or I code PHP or whatever. So I'm just going to the Laravel meetup. Like, go to everything. Like, I mean, be curious about everything. Like, people are very open to, if you're like, I don't even write this language, but I'm just keen to learn more. Like, even like the dribble meetups, the whatever, just, I'm not even a designer. I'm just keen to learn. But yeah. Then I think a last one here is, and I think maybe we can, um, this is maybe the last one we take tonight, is physical spaces give us non-verbal cues and so forth and so forth. How can you simulate that largely in kind of like an online space? And that is one of those things, especially when it comes to things like sarcasm. And I've definitely like put my foot in my digital mouth several times before. So I'm curious what your
Yeah.
thoughts are on that, Candace.
I think that's really it's a really good shout because lots of people struggle with this. And I guess
Mm.
I think the thing is I have a little bit of a framework again in my head of like what kind of communication is best for certain things. Okay. So in a public forum, in public where everyone can see this message, is this the best time to say this? Is this the best way to say this? Like, what, like if my first rule is if I'm doing this, I'm not allowed to press send.
Mm.
I'm not allowed to send a message like that because then I'm emotionally reacting to it and on, but it's my, like, I need to be aware of how I'm being perceived, but also how other people are perceiving me. And I think if you are unsure, don't send the message. Like, if you, that
Agreed.
is the most important thing, is if you think that like you've got like some heat in your message and you're like, maybe I should rather don't, and then come back to it in an hour and just rewrite it, send a message that time instead, because you will probably say it better. Another way is if you're like if it's a real serious or critical conversation, ChatGPT is quite useful. I use it quite a lot, but I've also defaulted to, I try on purpose to not just do text-based in an online space. So if I'm having like, if I want to follow up with someone and I want them to really like understand what I'm saying, I'll send them a voice note. I'll send the voice note as well as the message. So if it's something serious, because I work online, I don't work with any of my team members. So if I have some serious feedback, you know, like I have to communicate things quite clearly. And so we have actually got a little bit of a playbook, because we've discussed, how do you like to receive feedback? Because it's actually quite important if you're giving, like, I think networking is one thing. If you're networking and you're giving feedback, or if you're in a business context, you know, but if you're in like a networking situation, I always, like, if you're unsure, another thing to default for is ask for permission. So if you think someone's giving you a problem, you can say, can I just confirm, would you like me to help you brainstorm a solution? Or you can say, how would you like me to help you solve this? You know, so I think it can be very context dependent, but I genuinely, like, I try to have specific rules around, like, if it's serious, don't have that over text, rather have a conversation if you can. Otherwise, come back to it over a period of time where, like, that you can't respond where you can respond in a way that's communicate your intent or your message as clearly as possible. I like to use emojis sometimes, but it depends. Like, I actually, in my personal conversation, I think I said an emoji all the time, but in like work stuff, it feels weird, you know? So again, it's quite context dependent a little bit.
Yeah. And for me, maybe if I were to weigh in on that, and like maybe this is also a good opportunity to shout out the Mental Health and Tech podcast. So, like myself and Skulk Neetling, who a good friend of mine, he also called Skulk. He worked at Mozilla for a very very long time. We kind of do a podcast under FedSci, so you can just look on the FedSci YouTube for Mental Health and Tech, and so. And the reason why I mentioned that is I'm not going to recount the entire story now, but like there is a specific incident in one of the episodes that I spoke about where I I I I, I, I had a call with someone, and I wasn't sure. I started getting hints that they were kind of having some type of manic episode or something, and I messaged a mutual connection that we have. Um, but like quite like we're not, you know, like um, anyway. Long story short, and like that was a very strange experience for me. I felt very, I don't know, I almost regret even doing that. And just for context, I messaged them saying like I'm a bit concerned about this person. I don't know them well enough. Like you're a bit closer with them, but like I don't know, like something just felt off during the call, and um, yeah, like that ended up being a very awkward experience. And I think I recounted, and I think then we discussed it a bit, and I think I came out of that discussion realizing that some mediums just are not, they can't, like they don't have, definitionally there's certain types of interactions you just can't have on them, um like, and especially when it comes to vulnerability and so forth, um like there's just physically no way you can have certain types of conversations on certain mediums due to the medium itself, not due to you not being like good enough to navigate it or do it or whatever.
It's
I
just
think that's also,
insufficient. It is not sufficient.
yes, some type of conversations do require a bit more kind of slow, careful back and forth and subtext and whatever. So I think that's also important. Is that like some type of things is just, you know, like that is maybe more suited to, maybe I should have just called him and been like, not sent him a message on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
or whatever, you know. Um, so
Yeah, like
yeah, like
I'm not gonna lie. I have one thing that I did once which I regret. I'm not gonna lie. And it kind of probably ruined a very big relationship of mine. Like they posted a picture which I thought was not okay about, like, this is what takes to be an entrepreneur, you know, and it was like her white lady with a bunch of white men and like had paid and like, and I just like, I
That
was
really
dumb
doesn't
and
narrow it down. That can be any
no,
post on LinkedIn,
yes,
like basically.
I know it was just it was unrelated and unnecessary.
Mm.
And this was like about like, I think I was like in my early career, and I was like, I think it's a little bit blind to post something like that, considering you run a non-profit that empower that and have a co-founder who's a person of color. Like, it just felt blind, and I commented that, and maybe it was, whatever, but I commented something that I shouldn't have, and it wasn't necessary. And I went and apologized to that person because I was in the wrong, not them. They were just like living their own lives, you know. Like, I went and I interrupted their peace in some senses, you know, like, and I think there's battles you can pick, and there's times when you should do those kinds of things, you know. There's times when like there's times when I've seen people do super offensive things, and I'm like, I'm going to say something on LinkedIn, but that was not one of those times. And I guess it's important to also know, like, you mustn't just jump on a soapbox. I think with the internet, like, anyone can jump on a soapbox and like be a social justice warrior, but like, if it's not about you and you aren't like contributing to like hiding anything by not talking about it, you know, then it's not worth mentioning in public anyway. Just go somewhere else.
Or message them directly, because like if you message them directly, then like it's very clear that you care about this, and it's not just about kind of shaming them and whatever. But no, I have the same thing. I think for me, I've had to, one thing I've learned about myself is I think I've been more confrontational than I probably should be in general, because I think that like there's some type of overcompensation there for, so like once again, if you listen to just the mental health and tech stuff, like it was something that I really struggle with a lot, is kind of just like, I don't want to say self-hate, but just like just being disgusted with myself. And like, and I think so sometimes I try and compensate, like, I am a good person. I am a good person. I stand up for right things. Look, I'm not a bad person. So, but like, that's also not helpful. And maybe the answer is just for me to kind of find peace in myself and not just fight every battle that I see. But yeah, no, I get you.
It's difficult, like, especially if you have some sort of like if you care, if you really do care. I'm someone who, like, I can't watch the news. I actually can't, because I get so emotionally involved, and I'm like, I'm gonna go save everything. I'm gonna go save the penguins, and I'm gonna go save this, and I'm gonna do my job, and I'm gonna do everything. But I can't. I need to realize that, because it gets me emotionally like excited and worked up, doesn't mean that that's where my focus needs to be. And I think that's quite difficult as a neurodivergent person, is to realize that like stuff like rejection sensitivity dysphoria is a thing. There's a bunch of additional things you have to consider, especially in networking and building relationships, that make that difficult. And so I guess like I had to recently give myself permission to accept that there's some people that it's not about them liking me. It's just there's some people who are just not my people. And they're like, I'm like, they're great, they're nice, and there's no, like, I've tried so, like, honestly, there's people who love me, or there's people who hate me. Like, there's some people who I can walk in the room and they just, like, there's something about me, they hate my guts. And I don't know what I did, and like for some people they'd be like, I don't know what you did, and they're just not my people, and that's okay. And like, find my people, focus on my people, and then when I'm in a situation where I'm not with my people, I just try to have my safety kits and my coping mechanisms that are like, that help me just get through those, while also still just, I think, being open. I think my biggest thing is I've seen so many friends be so scared that they close themselves up off from any opportunity and from any scary things, that they never progress in their life. They're like not doing stuff. They're missing out on so much opportunity because they're scared to go outside, and they're scared to network online, and they're scared to talk to people, or even just like broaden their circle beyond the friends they made in high school, you know, or beyond those initial. And I'm like, why are you shutting yourself off from so much? Like every time I meet someone, I think of an opportunity of how we could add value to each other's lives. Like the problem is not to, but there's so much opportunity out there. So if you feel like your life is like you, there's more and there's something out there, you probably just haven't met the right person yet. Like you just need to, like, I really 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 believe that the answer is in community and just talking to more people, because that's as connected as we are so disconnected and unpracticed at actually building proper communication skills, like really talking to people and being empathetic to how people communicate in their weird and idiosyncratic ways. And I don't mean weird in a bad way.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, like, just like if there's ever a good point to end it off, like I think that's a great point. So yeah, I mean, like, thanks, Candice. This was really great as always. You did already share where people can get in touch with you and so forth. And yeah, maybe just in closing quickly, any resources, whether that be like books or like video series or whatever, that's worth looking into, if you found any of the stuff like compelling or interesting. You did already mention open
No.
letter, which
Yeah,
is
I think
a good one.
honestly the open letter, I'm very busy with work right now and speaking gigs. So the resources I have is mainly community, and I think like, and not just any one community, I guess it's just like like join communities in the places and the formats that work like for you, you know. So if you like an RSS feed and have a way of processing that, go find the RSS feeds in the right communities and subscribe to it, get the information. If you like something on WhatsApp, go find something on WhatsApp, but find that, like, I think the biggest thing is we try very hard to fight our habits every day, like, and there are some apps that are very good at capitalizing on our attention. And so what I'm trying to personally do is when I go on social media, what am I going to? Am I going to channels I want or into, you know? So I'm trying to be more intentional about where I do go, because if you feel like you don't have time or space for networking, there's actually a lot of it on in your email, in your WhatsApp, in places you already go. You just actually have to like open yourself up, I guess.
Yeah, and then like just like I mean like just as you were saying that, like I mean like one example I saw Lee was in the chat a bit earlier, but like she's also running an amazing community called Canvas Commons. Also check that out. Like yeah, there's amazing Discord communities. Just like if you just spend a couple of minutes looking, like you'll find a ton of great stuff, like once again, like even people in the chat here that are like running some great stuff. Yeah. All right, okay,
Yeah, my
cool.
rule is I like to have two communities that I learn from, one community that I contribute to, at least. That's
And
like,
one that you block.
and no, I've got lots that I block, trust me, and then lots that I ignore. That's the sad thing. I do actually ignore quite a lot because, yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks so much, Candice. Thanks so much, everyone. This was a long one, but I hope it was useful. And then yeah, hopefully I'll check all of you guys soon on any upcoming events. If any of this was useful, pop a message to me, pop a message to Candice, or whatever. Get in touch.
And
Right.
subscribe down below.
Subscribe down below. All right. Thanks, everyone.
I just had to.
Bye.
Bye.